Welcome everyone to today's class. We will be continuing with React fundamentals. Today we'll be looking at some things that, or probably we should do a recap. We did JavaScript last week, where I took us through the fundamentals, the fundamental parts of JavaScript, right? At least to make sure that everybody is fully ready for React. So this week we are going to move straight into React, right? Are we ready? All right. So today's class, let's be very active so that, yeah. Okay. So we are going to go straight into some actual work. So let's set up React first. So I believe that we all have Node.js installed in our PCs, correct? Good. All right. Excellent. So we don't need to stress ourselves going through that whole process again. Okay. So we understand that we create our applications, or yeah, basically from the command line, right? In the terminal. So this we all understand what command line is. I shouldn't be explaining command line. This is intermediate. We good? All right. So first thing we'll do is add the command to create a new React application, right? So basically, we already have our Node.js installed. Please, anybody that has not installed Node.js should identify now so that we can probably look at it. Yes, Fortune, this is an intermediate class for front end, not for React. Do you understand? Okay, so let's keep going. All right. So we use npm create byte latest, and then we enter. So we are using byte to create our React application. So initially it used to be create React the former way, which is deprecated, create React app, right? But we are using Vite now because Vite is like a faster runtime, right? So when we enter create React, npm create Vite at latest, it initially gives us an option to give our application a name. And our advice for those who can follow it, doing makes you understand better, all right? So, Yasira, I see your message. So just drop the link. So that link should give you there's like a walkthrough there to install Node.js. So you can go ahead and do that right now so that you can follow with the class. Thank you. And any other person who has that challenge can do the same. So initially, Vite will ask for the project name. So let's call it React first. React app. And then we click on enter. Then the next step will be to choose which framework or library we want to use, right? As you can see, there's pure vanilla, there is a Vue, and there's React, right? So we'll go ahead and click on React. So you can actually select different either a TypeScript, you want it to be a TypeScript project, or you want it to be JavaScript project. But for the purpose of this training, we are using JavaScript. So our next step will be to move into the folder, the new folder which has been created by React for us, right? So this folder is here. We cannot work on this folder if we are not inside the folder. So I think we already understand what I mean by CD, that folder. So now that we're in the folder, all I'll do is npm install. Okay. So with this now, we're installing all our node modules. I will explain what node modules are in a bit. Are we together? Okay. So our app has been created, 154 packages and audited 155 packages, right? So now you can see that this folder has been added. This node modules folder has been added to our application. Now what we'll do next is to run this application. npm run dev. Okay, so now this is the local server where our application is being served to. So let me bring that route that to us here. Okay, so as you can see, our application is running fully with the most initial content that I call it placeholder content that React has already added. Now let's go ahead and talk about what's happening here. Can anyone tell us what this node model is? This folder? Yes. So the app goes live on localhost, and you see that it has a port already. So this is something that's already configured by React. Now, for higher level, we can actually create a server file that can serve to a custom host if we want. Okay, so maybe we want to serve to 3001, that's 3001, or maybe 3002. We can configure the application to serve its build or its initial application to that 3001. Do you understand, Ade? Okay, so yeah, please just raise your hand and go ahead and say what you want to say. Michelle, you want to talk about node models?
I think Node modules contains all the libraries we'll be using in our React app.
Yes, so that's very accurate. So that's exactly what the node modules folder is, right? Contains all our libraries. You cannot manually add anything to this node modules folder. As you can see, everything, once you install, everything is added automatically, right? So think of it as your application's backpack where all your tools are stored. So everybody with me. No, so it's not a path. It's the library. So all these are like tools that you want to use to operate your application. A lot of things are inside here that are useful for running your React application, right? Now, this public folder is where we save the static files. So things like your favicon, your images can be stored in this public file, static. It cannot change. So those kind of files can be stored here. Now for the SRC, SRC is source. So it's like your source folder, right? You can see that inside SRC, you have app.jsx, main.js. So this is like the source of your application. This is where all your code basically will be written. This is the entry point, right? This is the entry point of your application. As you can see, I know you all understand what get element by ID does, right? So we are trying to save this application to an HTML tag that has root as its ID. Do we understand? So this is like a form of connection. We are trying to connect just the way you will connect your JavaScript to an HTML tag. That's exactly what we are doing here. So this is like the entry point for this application. So anything that is built within this, maybe probably app inside app.js here, everything that is built here is going to be served directly to the tag that within the tag that has the root as its ID. Now let's see that tag in index.html. Please, if you're confused, just drop a message and we can go back to where you're lost and clarify. So good. So this is like the basic HTML that we all know, right? You can see that you have your favicon link here. There's meta. You can add more meta tags depending on what you want to do. You can change the title of your application, right? Just like you would do in a normal HTML file, right? Now, this is the root of our application. So the div I spoke about in the entry point here is referencing the root I spoke about is referencing this very div. So what happens is that React is serving the whole of our application inside this div. Okay, are we together? All right, cool. So now let's go to CSS. So you see this index.css now. This is like the this is also like the root CSS. As you can see, root. It's referencing the root and it's styling the root directly. There are a lot of styles here that you don't need. I think you don't even need all of them, except for the purpose of what you want to do. You want to maintain some of the styles that are already added here by React. This is app.css. Like you can see, app.css is for app.jsx, and then index.css is for main.jsx, right? So the idea behind React is modularization, right? The fact that they want to give you an opportunity to make your code in little blocks, then bring them together to form the whole application, right? So you see that for modularization reasons, you want to have, for every component, you want to have a style component or a style file to match that component, right? So, so based on that, right, the structure of our code is going to take that kind of form. So I want us to maintain that kind of structure. Okay. Are we good? Okay. So modularization, right? Modularization is like, let me say, let's use division of labor, right? So you have chores to do in your house, and everybody is supposed to do one thing or the other. So each person doing a particular activity is a model of that very house. Do you understand? Is a model. Because now what happens is for the whole house to be clean, each model has to do its part, has to function for the whole house to be clean. I don't know if you get my point. Are we together? Good. Or we can say the parts of a, let's say, a car engine. Exactly. You have different parts of car engine in a car engine, right? Each part is like a model. Let's liken it to what we are trying to create with React, right? Each part is a model. For each model, it needs to work for the whole engine to function properly. Now, any model that is not functioning properly in that engine, the whole car is going to stop working, right? So that's exactly what React wants from us. Like that is what React was built for us to do, right? So React is telling you, instead of writing your table into one file, adding your button there, adding everything inside one place. It's saying create different components. So let's have a button component. Let's have a table component, possibly a reusable table component. We will get there. So when we get to that point, we will understand what I mean by modular nature of React, right? Are we good? Yeah, exactly. So that they can be reusable. Yeah. Okay. So if you have installed, do to check if it's properly installed in your terminal, do node, just do this. Check the chat. I've dropped a command for you. Yes, good for consistency too, definitely. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at other aspects, right? So we have assets folder here. So ideally, what we use asset folder is also to store static files where the man basically they are static, they are not going to change, right? So you can save your images here. I would prefer if within these assets, we try to create different folders for different types of assets. So we don't have, everything is not scattered, right? So let's assume you want to have pictures, you should have like a folder for images, right? And that's where all your images should go. And then if there are other resource you want to add to the assets folder, you should create a folder for it for readability purposes, right? Now yes, or SVG. Now SVG counts as image, so you should put your SVGs to inside the image folder. Yes, you got the version. Yes, then what's the version? Okay, give me a minute, everyone. Yasira, please, can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
So is what is showing there?
Version 22.16.0. 22.16.0. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So you can go ahead and create your React app
Okay.
following the steps that I mentioned earlier, if you still remember. I hope you are not distracted trying to set up.
No, no, no.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's carry on. So let's look at package.json, right? So this file, package.json, you see they have the name of the application, version of the application, and then we have scripts, and then we have dependencies and dev dependencies, right? So basically, what this does is it holds all the libraries you installed. So this is where you can check which library has been installed in your application. All these are libraries that are installed, pre-installed by React, right? See Vite, see ESLint, you see ESLint plugin hooks, you see ESLint, you see Vite plugin React, you see React DOM, right? Now, every library you install into your application is going to come under dependencies. So it depends on the type of dependency. If it is a core React dependency, it's going to fall under the, and if it is probably a third party, it will fall under dev dependencies. Then we have the scripts, right? So this script is what the commands you use to run your application. Like you saw when I did running this application, I had to do npm run dev, right? So this was the command I was passing. So as me, I want to build this application, I will do npm run build. If I want to, who is unmuted? If I want to, Timnan, can you mute yourself? Okay. If I want to lint my project, I can run npm run lint. So basically, these are like scripts for us to run this application, right? To save this application. All right, let's go on. So I hope we understand what dependencies are. Response, please. Yes, okay. They are just the tools that the app needs to run. They are tools. Dependencies are like, these are like the tools that React is depending on to run. Clear? Are we good? Okay, good. Then for these dev dependencies, right? They are tools needed only while developing. Okay. So what that means is these tools here will not an already installed React. How do you update it? Unmute yourself, Excel. That question is not clear. What are you trying to update? The version of React. Hello, Excel. Please, can you be snappy so that we can move on? Okay, he's not responding. Let's go. Yes, exactly. Yes, Team Nan does it. Okay, let's go on, please. So for this is just Byte config. It's pre-installed, even though you will need to do some fixing, some modification of this file when deploying to Vercel. We will get there. We are far from deployment now. Okay, so now that we know everything, so let's look at README, right? So README is like an instructional file for your application. It's always advisable to update your README when you build and when you are building your application. What README does is it helps new developers who want to work on your application to understand what has been built or what works and what doesn't work and how those things work, right? It also helps people know how to run your application. So you can give them like a walkthrough of how to actually run your application on dev side of things. Okay? Yeah, Udo, go ahead. You can unmute.
Okay, sir, please, I would like you to repeat what you said about dev dependencies. It's like you just rushed over it, so I didn't
Oh,
get
no,
that.
it's okay. So basically, dev dependencies are dependencies that the application requires while in development. Do you understand now?
Yeah, got that. Okay.
Okay. While the dependencies are the ones that the application needs to run. So the dependency is what is needed on production. You get, so at the stage of deployment and all that, that is what the application is going to be running on or will require to run. Cool. Can we move past README? Are we okay with README? All right, good. So let's go ahead and look at what we have in the app.jsx. Please acknowledge you can see clearly so that can we all see clearly? All right, okay. So before we go on with actually writing code, like I want to know if we understand other like core values of React, right? So who in this class understands what the virtual DOM does? First, before we move forward. Nobody. Are we good? Who understands what a virtual DOM is? Okay, let's start from who understands what a DOM is. Okay, Abiola, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, good day, sir.
Yeah, good day.
What I understand about virtual DOM, it's different from DOM itself, but what it does for React is to check for maybe there is a change in an element instead of re-rendering the whole element. So it keep track of that particular element that changed in the DOM. So that particular element will only be changed instead of re-rendering the entire React, the entire tree. So it just goes direct to where the changes is and then render that particular pattern. So
Okay.
that's the function of virtual DOM.
Okay. Let's hear from Bolua, Tifa.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, so my own understanding of virtual DOM is quite different from the normal DOM. The normal DOM like uses JavaScript to have access to HTML elements through JavaScript. But virtual DOM is different, like he said. What virtual DOM does is that it updates like components that change, not just the whole component. So when the virtual DOM sees that a particular component has been updated or a particular component something has been changed in that component, it just updates that particular component itself. It doesn't like render the whole page or the whole total component. So that's my understanding of virtual DOM.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. The explanations were actually great. Right? So basically, let me explain what a DOM is first, right? So the DOM is first of all, the full meaning of DOM is document object model, right? So it's how your browser understands and structures HTML. So I think someone spoke about using JavaScript to know how to display on the DOM. So just understand it as the way your browser understands and structures HTML. Okay, because you can actually utilize the DOM without JavaScript. Right or wrong? Response, please. In the chat box. All right, good. So basically, it's how the browser understands and structures the HTML. Now, the problem with the problem that React was trying to solve in the actual DOM or in direct DOM initialization is the fact that in a regular website, every time you change something, the entire page has to be repainted, right? So that's slow and a little bit clunky. Okay. Yes, exactly. It minimizes direct manipulation. Yes. So what React now does is React has like a copy of the real DOM in memory, right? So that copy of the real DOM is what we call the virtual DOM. So when you make changes, what React does is it compares those changes on the virtual DOM with the actual DOM, and then for only the parts of that application that experience those changes, those are the only parts that will be updated. Do you understand? Good. So that comparison that the virtual DOM does with the actual DOM is what they call diffing, right? So it compares the two DOMs, and then if there are changes on the virtual DOM that are not on the, especially if you have made those changes, what it does is it delivers just those changes to the actual DOM, thereby updating only those parts of the code that had those changes. This also improves on speed, right? Improves on speed and and gives a lot of efficiency. Yeah. And like our colleague already said, also minimizes direct DOM manipulation. Yeah. Direct real DOM manipulation. Yeah. So we'll move on and talk about components. I like to ask who understands what the component is. Who can tell us what the component is? I think I've already explained that in this class today. Yeah, so I need someone to tell us what a component is. All right, Ade. I don't like the idea that I'm having just Ade and Boluwati first speak in this class. Hello, don't worry, Ade, don't speak, please. Josh, let me hear from you.
Okay, so a component, a smaller piece of code that can be reused from different parts of a code, right?
Okay. All right. Team Nan, let me hear from you too. I'm missing some people in this class. Some people are not here. Why are they not? Why are they out of the class? Try to get your colleagues back in the class. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, based on my understanding, components uh, are those modules that make up a complete this thing. They are those
Yes.
segments. They are just like segments
Yeah, so
that
I think you're overthinking your response because your mind you're actually there. You know what you want to say, but you're overthinking it. Basically, components are just your building blocks, right? For those components to become reusable and all that, that's still a process. It's not like once you create a component, right? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Understand it first as a building block. Understand it first as a building block, like you are building a house, each block that you place on another is a component that you're placing on another component until that house is completed. So you React is a componentized library. So you build your project with those little chunks of code that are brought together as separate block. Do you get? So you have like buttons, you have profile card, you have the nav bar, you have your form. Even inside the nav bar, you can have other components like maybe the nav link components, a lot of other little components, right? Now, reusability. There are many forms of reusable components, right? Because at the end of the day, when you talk about reusability, in the context, in the global context, you are thinking you want to your components like the full page. You want to place a full page inside your app component, right? So inside your entry point. Now that's the component is being used there. You can actually place that component somewhere else. That means it's reusable, correct? You can place it inside you can decide that you want to place a full page inside anywhere. That full page is considered as reusable in that context, right? Now, in the context of using, say, little chunks of components like button components and navbar components, where you want to manipulate the content of those components, like let's say the text, and then let's say you have a button and you want to use this button in different places, but for each place you want to use that button as a different type of button. So probably you want to have a submit button, you want to have a read more button, but you don't necessarily need to create buttons everywhere, right? You create a button component that will receive, you create a button component that will receive like a prop will get there, right? It will receive a prop. So now utilizing that prop, everywhere you use that button, you can actually pass a custom text to that particular button. Now, are we following? Yes, okay. All right. So now this app.jsx is a component on its own. Okay. Now, what's happening here? These are all models that we are importing into our component. Like this Vite logo, this is actually an image, right? This too is an image. This is use state. We will talk about use state in other classes. We'll get there. So what's happening here now is we are importing all this to utilize them in our code. Now you can see that we're using use state here to handle this count, but I think this is a little bit too high level. So let me clean up this place. I don't want to use this to explain this thing to you. Let's write code. All right. So let's say we want to create a welcome card, right? So let's come here and create a new component. So I'll say, since it's a component, let me create a folder and name the folder components. So this is how I like us to be structuring our code, right? So I have components. If it were a page that I want to create, I would create a folder and call it pages. Okay. All right. So now once you come into this code base, you can easily just know where to find components and also know where to find pages. right? Within components, I will create a new file. Somebody is unmuted. Please mute yourself. I'll create a new file and call it, so we want to create a welcome card, right? So let's say, welcome card .jsx. Okay. So for React, you see that we have an extension here of JSX, correct? I will explain that in a bit. So what we have here now, we have a React application, a fresh new React application. So for this to work, I'm going to initially import React from React. So what this does is it brings in the React tools we need, right? Like picking up your toolbox from your shop before you start doing your work, right? So this toolbox is going to help us write our JSX. So let's go ahead and create our function. So first things first, we create our function. What's happening here? We have created a function and giving it a name, welcome card. So this component's name is going to be welcome card. Okay. We have a return statement. Okay. So is there? Yeah, so you have to always create your components with capital letter first. Okay. In React. Are we together? Yes, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for bringing my attention to that. Okay. So we're not going to be doing styling. So for this class, we will just have raw code, right? So let's use this. This works. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so what happens is when we do this return, right? It produces a JSX. It returns JSX, which is like writing HTML inside JavaScript, right? So as you can see now, we have written HTML inside a function without needing to add backticks, correct? I know some people must have seen this or have attempted to create this before. Chideo and one other person hand is up. Okay, Chideo, let's start with you.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
First, you wrote import React from React. So my question is it that every file we are creating under component, is it a must that this import React must be the first thing in the file?
Good. So basically, when you are creating, let me show you. Let's do one thing. Hold on. So when you create a component, I don't want to use shorthand to teach people. Not this. So when you create a component, right, the first thing it does is imports React for you. Do you get? It doesn't spoil anything to have React here, but you would require React depending on what you are building. But it is advisable to have it installed, have it imported. Okay. Are we together? So I know that a lot of people ask about the command. So So I dropped the command for you guys. Okay. So our next step will be to export this function, right? So say export default welcome card. You know why this is important to export it? Because if you don't export this model now, you cannot get it anywhere. So if I comment this out and I come to JSX and try to import welcome card, all right? So this welcome card now is going to take me nowhere because we cannot import it. So if I do import welcome card, it should not exist. You see? Are you following? But as soon as I come here and export this welcome card, I will be able to reference it to go to this, to import it successfully. Okay? Is it clear? All right, cool. So let's go ahead and continue. So basically we've created our first React component, and we have also imported it into our app.jsx. So what happens now is this app.jsx would now render directly to our main because this app.jsx has already been imported in our entry point. So when we save our changes and check the browser, we will see welcome to my first React app. This is a simple card component to greet users. Are we good? Now, let's say we want to add another component, right? We want to add another component here and say, let's say, so ideally, if we want to style this welcome card now, it's advisable to create a folder, put it into that folder, and then create your style sheet inside that very folder. We will do styling later on in the bootcamp. So let's say we want to do okay. So what you do is you are going to go and look that up, okay? Because that's going to take us we have gone so far. So what we can do is look up the strict mode, and then we'll talk about it in our next class. All right, thank you. So let's create a button component, right? So let's say custom button. Pardon me. So let's say custom button. Okay. Are we following? So we have a custom button here. Let's quickly create our okay. So we have custom button and we have button text here. So let's add our button and say click me. Okay. So now what happens is if we come here and add this button to app.jsx, all right, and save, we should now have our button display. Okay, hold on. It wasn't imported. Okay, so we have our click me showing, right? Now this is an example of what you can modify into a very usable button that can be used anywhere in your application. Now this kind of component can become as complicated as possible. When I mean complicated, not in a bad way. So it can have different class of styling. It can have different width definitions depending on what you want to do. So maybe you want to have different variants in this button. You can actually modify this button to have different variants, which is something that we would do in a further class, right? So do we all understand where we have gotten to? Okay. All right, so I need more responses. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go on. So I'm going to drop a small dictionary in the text box for everybody, something that you can use to easily remember the keywords we are using, and also, so this could be useful to you. Online, you can also get a lot of sheets that help you like keep your definitions very close and handy, so that you don't need to, when you see something or maybe you want to speak about something, it's easy for you to just communicate, right? All right. So I think this is where we'll draw it to a close for today, so that from our next class, we can go a little bit deeper into writing a little bit higher level components. Okay? Are we together? So in our next class, we'll look at props, we'll look at states, and then we'll also look at event handling. And possibly, if we have enough time, we can look at conditional rendering. Okay? So those are things I would appreciate if everybody takes a look at before that class. So go ahead, look at the next class. It's on Wednesday. So everybody should go ahead and look into props, states, right? Just understand what it means to manage states, and then understand a little bit of event handling, then conditional rendering. It will benefit us if everyone can also look into hooks, right? Everyone can look into React hooks. I think that will also benefit the class. Okay. All right. So that will be all for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and have a great evening. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Sorry. Hello.